I went to see it for the fun of it, not realizing how much fun I'll have watching it. I was blown away, not just by the way it grabs you and throws you into this really mysterious setup where you feel like you're stuck in this apartment with this man with a broken leg. So you see so many different narrative threads happening uh, just by the way he's looking. And a lot of it is because of the way Jimmy Stewart is looking, and then Grace Kelly and Jimmy's nurse, they all watch, and the nurse always keeps telling him he's being a peeping tom. Um, but whatever you can see based on that, you can develop a narrative. You can get a sense of what each of those characters, their lives are all about.
Hi Aseem, welcome to my podcast, which is called Spoiler Alert with me, Cinephile Sanket. So Aseem, in this episode, we are discussing one of your favorite Hitchcock films, which is called Rare Window, which is obviously directed by Hitchcock, Alfred Hitchcock, and which stars Grace Kelly and James Stewart. So first of all, Aseem, how are you? And please introduce yourself, and then please introduce this film.
I'm good, thank you. I'm in Delhi and it's freezing cold. It's 12 degrees centigrade outside, so that's why you see me sitting in winter clothing. Um, I'm doing good. I'm essentially a film journalist. I'm an author. I'm also the festival director of the New York Indian Film Festival, which is 21 years the oldest Indian film event in all of North America. So I do run the programming and other aspects of it. Um, so yeah, I think we were talking about what films to talk about, and I think Rear Window is clearly not. It obviously is one of my favorite films. Also, I think definitely my favorite Hitchcock film. Um, it's also a very smart, clever film. It's very entertaining. I mean, to me, I'm looking. I was thinking of um, something that it's not something very esoteric that people can get bored. It really grabs you from the very beginning, and it's very sort of smartly constructed, the plot and the way it's shot. So we'll talk more about it. But yeah,
Mhm.
that's
Okay,
why
yeah.
I thought we'd discuss that. And it's about a man who's watching his leg is broken and he's stuck at home, and he's watching everything happening from the rear window of his flat apartment in New York City.
Mhm. Okay, sir. So, Asim, first of all, when did you watch this film for the first time? And when you watched it, what was your experience like? And when you rewatched this, you just mentioned that a while ago that you rewatched this film just today. So, what was the experience now? So just tell me all about it.
So, but between the first time when I watched it, which was in 1983, I remember that now, and today that I watched it again, I've seen the film at least 6, 7 times more. So it's a film that I've revisited quite often, um, on the big screen as well as on my laptop or something. It just gives me so much thrill. It's a very smart film. It's very, very funny, and it's scary as hell. So I watched it in 1983. So I went to America as a student in 1981. I was in my early 20s then. And I distinctly remember that there were about 5 or 6 Hitchcock films which had been out of circulation. This is way before the internet and um DVDs so didn't exist. VHS tapes आने शुरू थे 80s में. Uh, but in theaters, there were a bunch of Hitchcock films that had been out of circulation. I had seen quite a few Hitchcock films in India before I left also when I was in college. Um, but this was re-released. I remember along with Rope, and I think To Catch a Thief, and I went to see it for the fun of it, not realizing how much fun I'll have watching it. I was blown away, not just by the way it grabs you and throws you into this really mysterious setup where you feel like you're stuck in this apartment with this man with a broken leg because everything is being seen from his perspective. But I also, again, as I said, I found it so funny. I found it so entertaining. It's so enjoyable. It's really, when you go out to see a film, really, it should affect all your senses, and it does. It just pleases you so much. By the time it ends, and There's a lot of laughter. There are great lines, great dialogues. Grace Kelly is hilarious. Not she's not being comic. She's not being it's just some of the lines as it is the way she used to deliver them. As maybe because the film was made in the mid 1950s, um, they come across very very funny. The lines. Um, so yeah, I loved it then. I watched it again this morning because I knew we were going to be talking about it. Um, and again, I was I said this is absolutely perfect. I mean, there are small little details I'd forgotten since I've seen it quite a few times. That always happens, but it all comes back. As you go from scene to scene. Uh, so yeah, I had a great time.
Oh, wow. I actually watched this film back in 2017 when I was selected in the Young Critics Lab, which was organized by the Mumbai Film Festival, MAMI. It was in the long list of films. It was one of those films. So I watched it. I completely enjoyed it. Like this, I think this was the first film which got me introduced to Hitchcock. So I can give Mami the credit to this. I actually thoroughly enjoyed the film. I was like looking through the lens of
Mhm.
Hitchcock and like looking through the perspective of Jimmy Stewart, like just seeing from his rear window and like just and like it is like a routine for us Indians as well, like how we also sometimes just get into a balcony and just see people from our rear window and like this stuff happening and happening and
It's
happening.
not, by the way, sorry for cutting you, but it's not an Indian trait. I think it's a universal trait. Um, it's a universal trait. People tend to be curious. So,
Absolutely, absolutely. We peep into everyone's like a house, or like who can whose windows are like much widely open, so we can like we just are curious to just look into their house and like what is going on. And I actually didn't found it funny, but like I watch it as a like a thriller piece, like a slow burn thriller. And like how Hitchcock like just it blew up and blew everything up in the end. It was just like I think this is one of my favorite Hitchcock film. Like same for you,
mm,
but like and I also think that it also somewhat inspired Francis Ford Coppola to make The Conversation. I don't know, but like like for me, like it was like the similarity, the inspiration was being like it was being shown. So I don't know, but maybe
yeah,
because
but
yeah.
yeah, conversation is also about listening to other people's conversations. But that was also, I mean, it's possible Coppola might have said that. I don't know, but the conversation also has to do with the time. I think it was made in the 70s, mid 70s, when Americans were very concerned about the government listening to them.
Hmm.
It was about this fear of the government, fear of people watching you over. This is before the CCTV cameras had started coming up everywhere around the world.
That was
And
during
so
the
there is
Watergate, right? That's why.
so yes, that time period, uh, listening, but also see, Watergate was again one political party listening to another political party. Basically, they bugged them. So yeah, the whole bugging thing was very important, but individuals began to fear that bugging aspect also. Um, but yeah, I mean, there are similarities between with Rear Window also. Yes.
Okay, yeah, but like, did you find anything like in the future films you watched it? So, did you find anything that which is like inspired by this film, like future filmmakers, the contemporary filmmakers which have taken inspiration from this film, since like it is Hitchcock's most like one
I
of
think
his most famous film.
if I'm remembering correctly, I think American Beauty. There's one character who looks out of his window,
Oh
younger
yeah, yeah,
character,
yeah.
the neighbors spying over. And there was a similar film with Shia LaBeouf or something. I can't remember the name. I remember watching it in a plane and getting quite scared watching it. Um, but I am, I can't think. I should have thought about this before if you told me the question before. But I'm pretty sure there have been other, and I would be surprised there might be a Bollywood film also that's paid attention to it. There was a Buddhadev Dasgupta film. Um, with which again, it was about listening and spying. It's about these two young guys who rent an apartment, and the next flat right behind them, adjoining wall, is this woman. I think her name is the actress's name is Reddy, something Sangeeta Reddy, no, some Reddy, her name is. But she's so they're basically two young horny men, and not young, but like in the they're young, in 20s or whatever it is. Um, and so they managed to, through the wall, put like a video kind of a thing, so they can watch her basically, especially when she's undressing and changing her clothes, and recording it on their computer. I cannot remember the name of the film, but it was definitely a Buddhadev Das Gupta Bengali film. It was, sort of an art house film. So similar concepts, but Rear Window had more to do with. I mean, the setup of Rear Window is very smart. You see, you're looking at in New York City, in Manhattan, the apartments are very congested. They're right facing each other, and a lot of these apartments. This is supposedly Greenwich Village, although the film was shot in a studio. So I guess it was in Los Angeles, but they have these private gardens, and there's a private garden, and there are sections of private garden that people can claim where they grow their own flowers or whatever it is, or there are places where people can sit and bathe in the sun. um, but there are apartments facing each other, and they're different buildings. It's not the same building only itself. If you look at this film also, like right opposite Jimmy Stewart's apartment window, you can see the woman who's always dancing in a bikini. So if you look at the structure of that, it's a very different, the bricks and the color and everything else and the height. It's a different building. They're just right next to each other, joined through walls. And they all look into this private garden. And you find really fascinating characters. So right on his left-hand side is this young couple that have just gotten married, who are the windows down at all times, and they obviously are engaged in sex, or they're in bed all the time. There is this musician who has often parties at his place. He's a piano player. In fact, Alfred Hitchcock makes his appearance in that guy's apartment. There is this woman who is dancing around all the time. There's a couple that lives upstairs. They don't have a kid, but they have a dog. And what they do is they basically lower the dog in a basket so the dog can walk around. Um, then there's a woman on the ground floor, or what we call first floor in America, who is basically a very lonely woman, and at some stage she's so depressed that she tries to commit suicide. And then in the middle apartment is this Greek guy,
Lars
Thornwald, sorry,
Thon.
Thornwald, yeah, Lars
Yeah.
Thornwald, um, who has an unwell wife, and the mystery surrounds him because Jimmy Stewart's character can see very clearly into his apartment, and also he has these zoom lens because he's a photographer, and he has that, and he has binoculars, so he's able to see. So you see so many different narrative threads happening just by the way he's looking, and a lot of it is because of the way Jimmy Stewart is looking, and then Grace Kelly and Jimmy's nurse, they all watch, and the nurse always keeps telling him he's being a peeping tom. Um, but whatever you can see based on that, you can develop a narrative. You can get a sense of what each of those characters, their lives are all about, and that's the fun part of it. And so it just suddenly in that you're suddenly struck by this one man and his woman, and you start to believe that the woman has been killed by the husband, and that's the rest of the story. So I don't know if you want to give spoilers later. We can give spoilers
No, no,
later
no. We
also.
like the entire conversation is it's spoiler filled.
Yeah.
So like we can like talk about the spoiler. So that's not an issue. But like I, like I also had like that kind of experience like as well, because just when I rewatched this film just today, I also rewatched this film. I like wasn't aware like what all others like plot lines were happening at the same time with Jimmy Stewart's character was like facing. And now when I rewatched this film, like I got to know that okay, yeah, there was a musician as well, there was a dancer, there was a lonely woman, like all like Hitchcock framed it like that way that everyone had a part, like a small part, even if they didn't have
They didn't have
much
dialogues.
dialogues. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
they didn't have much dialogues. I think the couple who had the dog, they only had a few dialogues when their dog died. That's the moment they have some dialogues. The musician only just plays the piano. That's it.
Oh,
Uh,
and there's a lady right below the musician's apartment who makes these sculptures, and she often sunbathes.
yeah. So like those are some little moments and little characters. And like what I noticed in in today's viewing was that like he actually Hitchcock actually fills the entire frame. He doesn't keep it like, okay, the roads are like the roads can be kept empty. In the background we can see the roads are full
People
like
are
of
going,
people.
cars are going. Yeah.
Exactly. And like this much kind of detail, I can only think of Hitchcock being so aware about it. Like I was very much blown away. And this, like, because of this film, I like know that Hitchcock is actually a true master of this film. And how Francois Truffaut in his book actually told that, like, he's not just a
Mm,
master of crime, but he's just a master of horror, but he's the master of
mm,
cinema. So
mm.
this film actually proves it. But speaking of Hitchcock, I would like ask you, which are your other favorite Hitchcock films as well, like not just
Oh,
apart from Red Window.
quite. I mean, Psycho is the name that everybody quotes, and then and Psycho is absolutely brilliant. Um, Dial M for Murder. I think it's a. I've seen Dial M for Murder probably the same number of times I've seen Rear Window. At least 4 or 5, 6 times I've seen. And Dial M for Murder, he also shot it separately in 3D. So there are I've attended some screenings of Dial M for Murder in New York City where they give you 3D glasses and you watch it in 3D. A time when this woman is being strangled and her hand comes up in front like this. Uh, but Dial M for Murder is probably one Hitchcock film that I get very confused instead of tracking the plot in my head. So every time I watch it, I, I try and while I'm watching the film, I understand, but there's so many intricate things that happen that you forget. Um, but the Birds, his later film. There's a fantastic film he made called Torn Curtain with Paul Newman and Julie Andrews about a couple. He's a scientist or something like that, and he goes to East Germany for some talk or something like that. But the Torn Curtain refers to the Cold War, the curtain basically. Um, but the idea basically is to meet some dissidents and to steal some secrets from East Germany. So that was really good. He made a film called Topaz that was set in Cuba. Um, a lot of suspicion. I forget what the name of the film is. I think it's called Suspicion or Spellbound. He made a film called Spellbound, which has this most unique, very artistic, bizarre dream sequence. And he got Salvador Dali, who was one of the most well-known surrealist painters, to design that whole dream sequence. Um, so Shadow of Doubt. It's a fantastic film about this young girl who's very fond of her uncle, and the uncle comes to visit her and her parents, and she slowly starts to get this sense that this uncle possibly could be a murderer, could be a criminal, but she likes him so much that it's very hard for her to, separate that kind.
But have you watched Rebecca? Like the
Yeah,
I think the only
yes,
Oscar-winning film, yeah, Best Picture winner for Hitchcock, I think.
that's interesting. I didn't pay attention to that. I've seen Rebecca. I've read the novel Rebecca also.
Uh,
Uh, Daphne du Maurier.
Definitely
I've
more.
seen his early films. I mean, the 39 Steps. I actually watched it again about a year or two ago. Um, uh, then he made some, the time when he made a movie called Lifeboat, in which the whole film is set in a boat. I mean, it was all done in the studio kind of a thing, but uh,
But still making this
very.
film back in like for 30s or 40s, like it's so much brilliant.
Yeah, but this one also, Rear Window, is 1955, which is
Hmm.
makes it 61 years, no, 66 years old, because it would have been 65 in 2020.
Hmm.
So it's hold on, more. You want to do the math? What is What is
No, but I think it was released in 53, I think, because
I thought
let
it was
me also
55, but
check. But
anyway.
yeah,
No, it's 66 years old if it is 1955.
wow.
But anyway, yeah. So 53 is even older.
But do you think like he made his like did Hitchcock made his best film, so to say, in his later in his later career, or like do you think he made his like best film in his like early career, like uh, I think Murder and like in his 20s and 30s, in the 20s and 30s?
Of course, Psycho is the black and white film, and I think Psycho was probably made in the late 50s, early 60s also. Um, but his color phase, where he started working with a lot of American stars, so Vertigo, which is considered his one of his absolute masterpieces. And I'm not hugely fond of it. Jimmy Stewart again. When he started working with Hollywood actors, Jimmy Stewart, Grace Kelly, he did a couple of films to Catch a Thief. He did a couple of films with Cary Grant. Cary Grant was also in
But
To
Cary
Catch
Grant
a
was
Thief.
a British actor, right?
Yeah, but he was a Hollywood actor, Hollywood star. You see, I'm talking
Okay,
about
okay. Hmm.
made his career mostly in Hollywood,
Yeah,
bigger, yeah.
correct, correct.
Um, so that phase when he started making these colored films, uh, he made Birds, he made Marnie. I think that had Sean Connery in it also. Uh, that was a very, very productive. I mean, I can't remember when Hitchcock died, but I think his last film was Frenzy, which is probably towards like mid to late 70s or something like
Mhm.
that.
He died in
Uh,
82 or 83. I don't like
हाँ तो
exactly.
लेट 70s में उसने बनाई थी फ्रेंजी बनाई थी it was this necktie murderer and there's this really gruesome scene where this guy he wears these neckties and he sort of then kills these women and he throws their bodies and then one day what happens is that he realizes that he's killed this one particular woman and when he comes home he realizes that his necktie had a pin and the pin is missing. So then he remembers the pin might have gotten stuck in the woman's hand. And then he goes and I forget, it's like a truck or something full of potatoes. And in one of the sacks is the body of this dead woman. And it's been thrown into the van for a while, and she's been dead for a while. So her, what happens is your body gets tight, and so she had closed her hand. So he slowly breaks every finger of his because that pin is stuck in her hand. But in order to open to take the pin out, he has to open all the fingers and he has to break the fingers because they're stuck like that. And it's really gruesome as hell and just fun. His violence used to be, there are some films that are very disturbing. I mean, I think Psycho is really very disturbing because here you have this guy who, after the mother dies, he stuffs her. He keeps these stuffed animals basically and birds and he's got his mother's body up there and he's got his mother obsession that he thinks that well, he becomes his mother also every time he goes and kills. He gets attracted to. You've seen Psycho, right?
Yeah, yeah, I've seen Psycho.
I mean, he gets attracted to women, but then also he's constantly has his mother nagging him, and then he dresses up as his mother and goes and kills the women who he was himself attracted to. And we keep thinking the mother is coming to kill till we realize the mother is actually dead. This guy puts on the wig and dresses up as his mother.
Norman
I think
Bates,
that was
I
probably
still
his
remember the
most
name.
creepy, scary film. Um, but
Mhm.
there are different degrees of, Birds is a frightening film because you have this town is attacked by birds and they seem very harmless till they just become vicious and they start to kill human beings and they keep poking their beaks into their eyes and terrifying.
But like at the end, I wanted to ask you for like one last thing. Like how did Hitchcock like inspire the contemporary directors? Like how do you think he has inspired?
Well, so there are some. Brian De Palma was clearly very inspired by Hitchcock. And Brian De Palma made films like Dress to Kill and a range of films. The names are not coming up in my mind. There's so many
Scarface
different.
and
And the
Blowout, right?
Scarface was a totally different theme. He made Scarface. He also made this fantastic. Um, what is that Al Pacino film he made with
Carlito's Way.
Robert? No. this other Al Pacino film about with Sean Connery and Robert De Niro.
Oh yeah.
Not
No,
Al
not
Pacino.
Al Pacino, but yeah. The
Uh,
Untouchables. The Untouchables. Yeah.
The Untouchables. Yeah, yeah. Why am I saying the Al Pacino thing? And Kevin Costner's in it also.
Ken
Yeah,
Costner. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
It was about
So
Al Capone's
Al
capture.
Capone, sorry, yeah, yeah. But that is Brian De Palma also. That was not inspired. I mean, Hitchcock, but he made some really frightening Hitchcock films also. Inspired films also. Um, there's a French filmmaker called Claude Chabrol who was a contemporary of François Truffaut and Godard, and they all used to and Louis Malle, and they used to all write for Cahiers de Cinema, and these are the people who actually discovered Hitchcock and gave him this auteur sort of a level of this, like he was made him consider, because Hitchcock was considered too mainstream before that. But these people started considering Hitchcock very seriously, studying Hitchcock, and we talk about that. You mentioned that Truffaut Hitchcock book also, with extensive interviews. Um, so Claude Chabrol made a lot of sort of dark thrillers, clearly inspired by Hitchcock, and set in France. And I'm sure there are other filmmakers also.
Mhm.
Uh, many. There are many who, have, there's so many thrillers made, but many owe their sort of early sense of what thrillers are, or some basic rules about you know scary films, not horror, but the genre of scary films, etc. That the inspiration was Alfred Hitchcock for them.
Oh wow. Oh, wow. But yeah, finally, Aseem, thank you so much for coming to my podcast. It's like been a real honor to talk about Hitchcock and Hitchcock's film, and in particular, Rare Window. Like I heard you say that this is one of your favorite Hitchcock films, and like it's one of your favorite all-time favorite films as well. So thank you so much for coming to my podcast, and like I'll see you soon some other time.
Thank you, and I hope people watch. I mentioned many Hitchcock films. So I hope people watch those in addition to, of course, Rear Window. It's a great introduction to a really, really very entertaining, fun, scary genre of films, and very smart and very clever. Yeah.
I talk to people. They only say that like yeah, I have watched Hitchcock films. Which one? Only Psycho. Yeah. So like Psycho is
You
the
got to
like
go
the
beyond that, yeah.
yeah like
No, and
I think
Psycho is very, very good. It's a good starting point.
no
It's very good, but
it's a good starting, but like but they must go beyond Psycho. Like you should have like they should have watched Rare Window and like other films as well, even Rebecca like as well. So like people should actually watch his
there's
filmography.
a film of his. I'm sorry for cutting you,
Mhm.
which is very different. It's called Wrong Man. Henry Fonda was in it, and it's a black and white film, again probably made in the 50s, about a wrong man who's accused of a murder, basically, and so it has to do more with his psychological condition. It's not scary like some of these other films where you're breaking the bones of a dead person to pull out a pin, or in Rear Window, the man saws his wife and throws the wife's body parts into different parts of East River in New York City. But Wrong Man, it's also very, it's a very, very powerful, strong film. Great acting by Henry Fonda. Um,
Mhm.
sort
Sure.
of, when you're as prolific as Hitchcock was, I can't, he made like 40 plus films, I'm sure. Uh, the different ranges of film, there were some stronger than others, but so people need to go beyond Psycho.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, thank you so much, and I'll see you soon. Goodbye, Aseem.
Thank you. All right. Bye bye. Take care. Yeah.